So this is something I did last year. I did it for about 8 months. I worked 2 full-time remote tech jobs at the same time. I was making about $260,000, which adjusts for cost of living. I live in Utah, so if you're in the Bay Area or New York City, it's like $500,000. It's $500,000. So why is this a terrible idea? Why should you not do this? I'm gonna go through 4 reasons. One of these reasons ended up being the deal breaker for me, which led me to quit one of the jobs after about 8 months. And is the reason that I'm not working 2 full-time jobs right now. Before we get into it, if you've ever left a long video running on your computer so that you appear active on Slack so that you can go and hit a midday workout, then consider subscribing. My name is Jake Farron. I'm a product designer turned YouTuber. I'm still very new to this YouTube thing, so I could use all the help I can get. So please consider subscribing. And if you do, I appreciate you. And I hope to see you in the comments section below. Before I scare you off with my reasons why you should not work 2 full-time jobs, why it's a terrible idea, don't do it, I should say I'm glad I did it. It can be a pretty cool thing. So at the end of the video, I'll leave you with 3 situations when I think it's probably a good idea to try working 2 full-time remote jobs. Okay, reasons that you should not work 2 full-time remote jobs at the same time. Number 1, you could get fired.
Tomorrow then? You're fired. That's what... I don't have a cardboard box to give you to put your things in, but you can put your things in, your backpack.
I didn't get fired when I tried this, and I explained in one of my videos that one of the companies actually found out that I was working 2 jobs and they seemed to be okay with it. They didn't care, and I didn't get fired, but you could definitely get fired. It may not be illegal to do this, but you're giving your company an excuse. You're giving them another reason to get rid of you if they already don't like you, or if they're looking to downsize, you're going to be first on the chopping block. So if you value your job and you don't want to get fired, do not try doing this. When I got an offer from the second company that I started with, I also got 2 other offers from other companies. So I knew that if I got fired from one or both of the companies that I was working for, that I could pretty easily get a job somewhere else. My job is in super high demand right now, so I just wasn't worried about that. I'm a UX designer or product designer. So UX is user experience. So I design the experience and the interface of websites. Even with all that job security, it's still scary. No one wants to get fired. It's embarrassing. It sucks. So it is something that I worried a lot about, even though I probably could have picked up another job pretty easily. So the possibility of getting fired wasn't that big of a deal for me. It wasn't the deal breaker that stopped me from doing it. It might be for you though, depending on how much you value your current job. All right, number 2. If you're working 2 jobs, you're probably not going to progress a whole lot in your career. You're literally just doing it for the money. It kind of kills me that the second company that I worked for never really got to see me at my best. They always saw halfway Jake. It really is pretty easy to rise through the ranks at a company if you want to. There's so many opportunities to do more, to stand out. But if you're working 2 jobs, you want to take on as little as possible. And that just doesn't feel great. But for me, the idea of progressing in a UX career really isn't that interesting to me anymore. I don't care that much. So this isn't the reason that I stopped doing it either. All right, number 3, mental health / not good for a peaceful mind.
The same way, if you want to be effective in business, you need a clear, calm, cool, collected mind. Warren Buffett plays bridge all day long and goes for walks in the sun. He doesn't sit around like constantly loading his brain with nonstop information and getting worked up about every little thing.
I'm not a depressed person. I have never really suffered with depression or anxiety. But during this time when I was working the 2 jobs, I found myself making jokes about suicide. Like I was saying stuff like, I just wish I could go to sleep and never wake up. Stuff like that. And that's like not like me at all. After the first few months of doing it, I just felt this dark cloud over my head all the time. And I was just drowning in requests and I kind of felt numb. It was a weird, weird feeling.
Does anyone ever feel like they're just disappearing? I feel so much like giving up.
And maybe it's just because I had never been that busy, but I had no time for my mind to just wander. So there's something about enjoying your life. Like as much as we all want to grind, we all want to make money right now, we got to play the long game and enjoy where you're at right now. And if you're too busy to enjoy your life, then that's a problem. No amount of money is worth potentially losing your life over, or even just turning into this stressed shell of your former self that your wife and your family has to put up with. So this was a huge motivating factor for me to stop working the 2 jobs, but it wasn't the reason. This wasn't even the deal breaker. I actually think that you could find a way to work 2 full-time jobs without going crazy, without the depression creeping in. The number 1 reason that I walked away after 8 months, I quit one of the 2 jobs. The reason I'm not working 2 jobs today is that it's a bad way to make money. It's a bad way to create wealth is maybe a better way of putting it. Naval Ravikant has a tweet in his tweet thread called How to Get Rich. And it says, you're not going to get rich renting out your time. You must own equity, a piece of a business to gain your financial freedom. So when you're working 2 remote jobs, you have 2 salaries coming in. It may be a lot of money. It may, $260,000 is a lot of money, but that's spread out over the entire year. And it's a fixed number. There's no potential massive upside. Like if you owned a piece of a business, if you owned equity in a business, that could potentially take off and make you very wealthy.
The first thing, if you're going to make money, is that you're not going to get rich renting out your time. Even lawyers and doctors who are charging $300, $400, $500 an hour, they're not getting rich because their lifestyle is slowly ramping up along with their income, and they're not saving enough. They just don't have that ability to retire. So the first thing you have to do is you have to own a piece of a business. You need to have equity, either as an owner, an investor, shareholder, or a brand that you're building that accrues to you to gain your financial freedom.
Earning a fixed salary, no matter how big it is, you're still renting out your time. And when you're on vacation, you're not earning. When you're sleeping, you're not earning. When you retire, you're not earning. You have to be working to be making that money. And someone can tell you where to be at a certain time. That's not freedom. That's not what you want ultimately. So during this time of working 2 jobs, I was so busy and I was making pretty decent money, making double what I usually make, but I wasn't building towards anything. I wasn't building anything in the real world. There's this cool graphic that explains this Naval principle of earning with your time is linear, earning with your mind is nonlinear. It's this exponential growth because you're building something and you're getting leverage in the world. One way that Naval likes to explain it is that your inputs should not be too closely tied to your outputs. So you can imagine a software engineer, their input, they could input an hour or a couple hours of work and their output could be billions of dollars worth of wealth. Like in the case of, creating Bitcoin or creating Airbnb, it's a little bit of work that creates this massive value in the world. The opposite of that would be like a hairstylist, which my wife used to be a hairstylist, and she's making money if she's standing there behind the chair working on someone's hair. The second she stops, she's not making money anymore. It's directly tied. Her input is directly tied to her output. So the best hairstylist might make 2 or 3 or 4 times more than the worst hairstylist, but the potential earning is capped off because she or he has to be standing there at the chair doing the work to earn the money. So when you're working 2 remote tech jobs or 3 or 4 remote tech jobs, it's the same thing because you're getting paid a salary. You're renting your time for the work that you're doing for the company. You don't have any ownership in the company. Maybe you have, some stock options or whatever, but you don't stand to gain massively if this company does really well. And on top of that, if you're a salaried employee, you work for a company, you are replaceable. If they can train you to do the job, then they can train someone else to do it. And they're paying you the least amount possible to keep you doing that job. So that's the way that I started to look at it. Really, Naval ruined everything.
You've got one life. Just do everything you're going to do.
I realized that I'm replaceable. My inputs are very closely tied to my outputs. I'm not creating anything new or making a meaningful contribution to society. So then that gets me thinking about what is going to be my life's work? What am I going to consider my life's work? Is it going to be making minor adjustments to some company's website? Seeing a little tick up in conversion here and there? That's what I'm going to work on for my life. I just want to do something more. I want to make some meaningful contribution to society. I want to make real money. I want to interact with the best in the world, the best and brightest that are working on really cool things. And I really believe that if you stop thinking so much about the money, stop focusing so much on making money, and think about all that other stuff, that the money will come as a byproduct. That's when people start making real money. So initially my thinking with the 2 jobs was I was going to work the 2 jobs until I could save enough money to where I could quit both of them and work full-time on my own thing, whether it's some startup idea or working full-time on YouTube videos. But I thought if I have enough money, if I can make $60,000 was the number that we thought. But I realized something in doing this. I realized that it's not the money you need. It really isn't. It's not the money you need. It's all the other stuff. It's the determination. It's the resolve. You just need to decide to do it. Decide to make time for it. The money's not going to help you. So I had a good time working the 2 jobs. I'm glad I did it. I'm also very glad to be done. But as promised, I wanted to leave you with a few situations where I think it's probably a good idea to try pulling off the 2 remote jobs thing. There's 3 situations. Number 1 is you have a very specific financial goal. You want to pay off debt. You want to pay off your cars. You want to pay off student loans. then I would say go for it. You have your goal, you have a clear end date, and you stop when you hit it. The next one is maybe you're right out of college, you're a young kid, you got a lot of time, you don't have a family. I don't think it'd be a bad idea to have 2 remote jobs. You could save a lot of money and you'd gain a lot of experience. You can see how things are done in different companies. You're almost accelerating the learning process and getting a lot of experience at once. Plus, you're young, you have time to work a lot. This last case is you're planning on leaving your company, you go out and interview with other companies, you get a job. I mean, you might as well try, like just not tell them at the first company, do it for a couple months, make an extra, $20,000, $30,000. If the new company finds out, then you can always just tell them that you're wrapping up projects with the old company and you wanted to stick around and help them out, leave them in a good place. And it's kind of a good chance to feel out the new company, and you can always, quit that company and just go back to your first one if it's not working out. So those are the 3 situations when I would say, go for it. It's going to suck, but you'll make some good short-term money and you'll have a good story to tell. That's all I've got for the video. I appreciate you watching. Be sure to subscribe if you're not already, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.